Captain Minho walked through the giant metal doors of Nexus Prime. The space station was bigger than any city he had ever seen on Earth. Lights from 1,000 different worlds glowed in patterns that hurt his eyes. Strange smells filled the air, some sweet, some sharp, some he could not name at all. Lieutenant Yuna stayed close behind him. Her hand rested near her weapon, but she tried to look calm. They both wore their best uniforms. The blue and silver of Earth Defense Force looked small compared to the bright colors of alien clothing around them. "Stay alert," Minho said quietly. "But remember, we are here to make friends." They walked down a long hallway made of some kind of crystal. Their boots made soft sounds on the smooth floor. Alien beings moved past them. Some had too many arms. Others had no arms at all. One creature looked like it was made of pure light. It flickered as it moved. The meeting room was huge. A round table sat in the center, but it was not made for humans. The chairs were wrong shapes and sizes. Minho and Yuna had to stand. 3 alien leaders waited for them. The first was Elder Keth. He looked like a walking diamond. Light moved through his crystal body in slow waves. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, humans," Elder Keth said. "We are the Valari. We have watched your world for some time." The second alien was Drone Commander Zixtal. He looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and green eyes that never blinked. His shell was black and shiny. When he moved, Minho could hear clicking sounds. "The Thrax greet you," Zixtal said. His voice buzzed like a machine. The third being was hard to look at. It had no solid form, just floating energy that changed colors. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. "The Luminous acknowledge your presence," it said. Elder Keth moved closer to the table. Images appeared in the air above it. They showed Earth from space. Then the pictures changed. Now they showed human children. Minho saw kids playing in a schoolyard. They were maybe 6 or 7 years old. Some were climbing on metal bars. Others were running and chasing each other. A group was sitting in a circle, moving small pieces on a board. "This troubles us," Elder Keth said. The crystal in his chest pulsed red. "Your young ones engage in combat training before they can properly walk." The images changed again. Now they showed teenagers doing martial arts, punching and kicking and practiced moves. Another image showed children playing a game with flags. They ran and hid and tried to capture colored cloth from each other. "Aggressive preparation," Zixtal clicked. "Most unusual. Thrax young do not begin military studies until they reach full size. That is after 20 molts, the energy being pulsed brighter. Luminous offspring remain in learning chambers for 300 cycles. Only then do they study conflict." Minho looked at Yuna. She nodded slightly. They had expected this. "With respect," Minho said, "these are not combat exercises. These are games." "Games?" Elder Keth's voice rose higher. "Your young ones practice stealth, strategy, and physical combat." "You call this play?" "Yes," Yuna said. She stepped forward. "Human children learn through play. It makes them happy. It makes them smart." The aliens looked at each other. Zixtal's antennae twitched. The Luminous dimmed and brightened rapidly. More images appeared. These showed human children building things with blocks. Other kids were solving puzzles. A group was playing with balls, throwing and catching. "Hand-eye coordination," the Luminous said. "Spatial reasoning. Team tactics. All disguised as entertainment." "Because it is entertainment," Minho replied. "Human children enjoy learning. They enjoy challenges. We start early because they want to start early." Elder Keth moved around the table. His crystal body made soft ringing sounds. Other species wait. "The young brain must develop fully before serious training begins." "You push your offspring too hard, too fast." "Do we?" Yuna asked. She pulled out a small device. "May I show you something?" The aliens nodded. Yuna activated the device. New images appeared. These showed human children laughing as they played. Their faces were bright with joy. They hugged each other when games ended. "Winners help losers get better." "This is combat training?" Zixtal asked. His head tilted to one side. "This is childhood," Minho said. "Human children learn because they want to learn. They compete because it is fun. They help each other because they care." The Luminous pulsed slowly. "Strange. Our analysis suggests this method would create weak, unfocused individuals." "Maybe your analysis is wrong," Yuna said quietly. The room became very quiet. Elder Keth's crystal body went pale. Zixtal's wings buzzed. The Luminous flickered like a broken light. "You challenge our wisdom?" Elder Keth asked. We offer our friendship, Minho said, and our differences. Elder Keth moved back to his position. He spoke with the other aliens in languages that sounded like music and static. After several minutes, he turned back to the humans. The Galactic Council will accept Earth as a probationary member, he said. Your species shows promise, but also concerning primitive behaviors. Primitive? Yuna asked. Starting military preparation so early suggests a species driven by conflict, Zixtal explained. Such races often burn out quickly. They destroy themselves before reaching true advancement, Minho wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that human children were not soldiers. They were just children being children, but he could see the aliens had made up their minds. We understand, he said instead. We hope to prove ourselves worthy of full membership. Time will tell, the Luminous said. For now, you will have limited access to galactic trade routes. Small patrol duties in safe sectors. Nothing more. The meeting ended soon after. As Minho and Yuna walked back through the crystal hallway, they could hear aliens talking about them. Some sounded worried. Others sounded curious. They think we are dangerous, Yuna said. They think our children are dangerous, Minho replied. They have no idea how right they are. Outside the great station, stars filled the black sky. Somewhere among them was Earth, home to billions of humans who had all once been children. Children who had learned to think and fight and solve problems by playing games. Minho smiled as their ship prepared to leave. The galaxy would learn soon enough. Human children were not trained early to be warriors. They were trained early to be human. And being human was something special indeed. Lieutenant Jiho sat in the captain's chair of the Soul's Pride. The ship was not big, but it was fast. More important, it was crewed by humans who knew how to think quickly. 3 months had passed since Earth joined the galactic community. The aliens had given them patrol duties in quiet space. Nothing interesting ever happened in Sector 7. Until today. Lieutenant, called Communications Officer Taman from his station. I'm getting a distress signal. Jiho turned in his chair. Taman was young, maybe 22. But he had good ears and steady hands. What kind of signal? Thrax frequency, Taman replied. His fingers danced over the controls. It's weak. Breaking up. But definitely asking for help. Engineer Nari looked up from her console. She was checking the ship's systems as always. Thrax ships are tough. What could hurt one badly enough to send distress calls? Medical Officer Hiji walked onto the bridge. She carried her medical bag. Are we responding? Jiho thought for a moment. Their orders were simple. Patrol the trade routes. Report anything unusual. Help ships in trouble if possible. But Thrax ships rarely got in trouble. Taman, can you trace the signal? Already working on it, the young man replied. Signal is coming from the Omega Sector border. That's contested space. Everyone on the bridge became quiet. Contested space meant danger. It meant pirates or worse. The galactic powers avoided that area when possible. How far? Jiho asked. 4 hours at full speed, Nari said after checking her numbers. Jiho made his choice. Set course for the signal. Maximum speed. The Soul's Pride turned and jumped to faster-than-light travel. The stars became long lines of light outside the windows. 4 hours later, they dropped back to normal space. What they found made them all stare. A Thrax mining ship floated dead in space. Its hull was torn open in a dozen places. Pieces of metal drifted around it like scattered toys. The ship was huge, but something had cut through it like paper. Life signs? Jiho asked. Yeji checked her sensors. Faint, very faint. Maybe 1 or 2 survivors. Any sign of what did this? Nari asked. Taman was quiet for a long moment. His face was pale. Lieutenant, you need to see this. Images appeared on the main screen. They showed space around the damaged ship. But it was not empty space. Pieces of other ships floated in the darkness. Lots of pieces. How many ships? Jiho asked quietly. I count debris from at least 15 vessels, Taman said. All Thrax military. All destroyed. Nari whistled softly. 15 Thrax warships? What could do that? Jiho stood up. He had heard stories. Old stories that most people thought were myths. Stories about machines that came from deep space. Machines that destroyed everything they found. Prep the shuttle, he ordered. We're going aboard that ship. Sir, Yeji said, what if whatever did this comes back? Then we'll deal with it, Jiho replied. But first, we save whoever is still alive. The shuttle trip to the damaged Thrax ship was short but scary. Up close, the damage looked even worse. Whatever had attacked used weapons that cut through metal like a hot knife through butter. They found the survivor in the ship's command center. Drone Commander Zixtal lay trapped under a fallen beam. His shell was cracked. Green fluid leaked from several wounds. HFY went to work immediately. She gave the injured Thrax medicine for pain and sealed his worst cuts. "What happened here?" Jiho asked gently. Zixtal's voice was weak and buzzing. "Came from nowhere. Black ships. No warning. No communication. Who attacked you? Old things. Ancient things. We have name for them. Void Reapers." Jiho felt cold. He knew that name from the old stories. Machines that slept in deep space for thousands of years. When they woke up, they destroyed everything. "How many ships did they have?" Nari asked. "Hundreds, maybe thousands." Zixtal coughed. More green fluid came out. "They knew our moves before we made them. Predicted every tactic. Countered every strategy." Taman was scanning with his equipment. "I'm reading strange energy traces. Whatever weapons they used, they're not like anything in our databases." "The whole fleet," Zixtal whispered. "Gone in minutes." Admiral Kextra called for retreat too late. "They cut us apart like we were nothing." Jiho helped HFY move the injured alien to their shuttle. As they prepared to leave, Taman found something important. "Lieutenant, I've got a data core. Partially damaged, but I might be able to recover some information." "Take it," Jiho ordered. "We need to know what we're dealing with." Back on the Soul's Pride, they watched Taman work on the damaged data. Slowly, pieces of information came together. Battle recordings, sensor data, messages between Thrax ships. What they saw made them understand why an entire fleet had died so quickly. The Void Reapers fought like machines, but they thought like something much smarter. They analyzed every move the Thrax made, every formation, every weapon pattern. Then they adapted and countered perfectly. "It's like fighting a computer that learns," Nari said, "but faster than any computer should be able to learn." "They're heading deeper into galactic space," Taman reported. Following the main trade routes, Jiho looked at his crew. All of them were young. All of them had grown up playing human games. Games that taught them to think in ways that aliens found strange. Zixtal was resting in their medical bay. The Thrax would live, but his fleet was gone. Soon the Reapers would find other fleets, other worlds. "We should report this to Earth Command," HFY said. "Let them warn the galactic powers." Jiho nodded. But he was thinking about something else. The Reapers predicted everything the Thrax did. But could they predict what humans might do? "Send the warning," he ordered. "But also send our location. Tell Earth Command we're tracking the Reapers." "Sir?" Taman looked confused. "Shouldn't we return to base?" "Someone needs to watch these things," Jiho said. "Someone needs to learn how they fight, how they think." "We're just one small ship," Nari pointed out. Jiho smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Maybe that's exactly what we need to be." The Soul's Pride turned toward deep space. Behind them, the wreckage of 15 Thrax warships drifted in the darkness. Ahead, somewhere in the black, ancient machines were waking up and remembering how to kill. But they had never fought humans before. They had never fought a species that learned to think by playing games. Games where the best strategy was often the one that made no sense at all. Jiho settled into his captain's chair. His crew worked around him, tracking energy signatures and plotting courses. They were hunting something that had just destroyed a fleet. It should have been suicide. But Jiho remembered being 7 years old playing hide-and-seek with his friends. The best hiding places were always the ones that seemed too obvious or too stupid to work. Maybe it was time to teach some ancient machines how humans played games. Captain Donghyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the impossible. Through the view screen, he could see them. 200 Void Reaper ships, black as space itself, surrounding a massive weapons platform built into an asteroid. "How many ships do we have again?" he asked his tactical officer. 12, sir," came the quiet reply. "Counting the Soul's Pride," Donghyun nodded. 12 human ships against 200 ancient killing machines. The galactic powers had already written off this entire sector. They were building defense lines hundreds of light years away, hoping the Reapers would stop eventually. But Lieutenant Jiho had sent valuable information. The Reapers were not random destroyers. They were systematic. They studied each species they fought. They learned from every battle. Then they used that knowledge to destroy the next fleet even faster. The Thrax had fought in formations they had used for 1,000 years. The Volari had used crystal technology that was completely predictable. The Luminous had attacked with energy patterns that followed mathematical laws. All of them had been destroyed because they fought the way they always fought. Commander Soman, Dong-Yun called to his fighter squadron leader. "Are your pilots ready?" Soman turned from her station. She was young, but she had trained in Earth's best academies. More important, she had grown up playing the right games. "Ready, sir. But I have to ask, are we really going to try Red Rover against alien war machines?" Dong-Yun smiled. Red Rover was a children's game. 2 lines of kids holding hands. One team would call out a name and that child would run as hard as they could, trying to break through the line. "Do you have a better idea?" "Actually, sir, I do." Soman pulled up a tactical display. "What about Duck Duck Goose?" The bridge crew looked at her like she was crazy. Duck Duck Goose was an even simpler game. Children sat in a circle. One child walked around the outside tapping heads and saying duck. When they said goose, that child had to chase them around the circle. "Explain," Dong-Yun said. "The Reapers have been studying military formations for weeks now. They know how fleets attack. They know how ships work together. But they've never seen anything like human children's games." She highlighted enemy positions on the display. "If we arrange our ships in a loose circle around their platform, they'll expect us to close in slowly. Standard siege tactics. But what if instead, we send single ships on random runs through their formation?" Dong-Yun studied the plan. It looked insane. Ships would be alone, surrounded by enemies. But that was the point. "The Reapers predict our moves by analyzing patterns," Soman continued. "But children's games don't follow military patterns. They follow playground logic." Engineer Nari spoke up from her station on the Soul's Pride. Her voice came through the communication system. "The weapons platform is the key. If we can get boarding parties inside, we can shut it down." "How?" Dong-Yun asked. "Same way kids navigate a jungle gym," Nari replied. "Over, under, around, and through. Find the weird ways in." Pilot Kyung was listening from his fighter cockpit. "My squadron knows hopscotch patterns. We could use those for evasive maneuvers." Dong-Yun had trained at military academies. He had studied the great battles of history. He knew tactics and strategy. But right now he was thinking about being 8 years old on a playground. "All ships," he announced on the general communication channel. "We're going to play some games." The attack began with Red Rover. Commander Soman led her fighters in a tight formation, flying straight at the Reaper line. The enemy ships moved to intercept, following predicted patterns. At the last second, Soman's fighters broke formation. Instead of attacking as a group, each ship went a different direction. They spread out like children breaking through a line of linked arms. The Reapers tried to adapt, but their computers could not predict random playground behavior. They had been programmed to counter military tactics, not children's games. "It's working," Taemin called from the Soul's Pride. "Their targeting systems are confused." Pilot Kyung began his hopscotch runs. His fighter moved in patterns that made no military sense. Jump forward, pause, jump sideways, spin around, jump backward. The Reaper's weapons kept missing because they could not predict where he would go next. Other human pilots joined in. They flew in patterns based on tag, hide and seek, and follow the leader. The Reaper ships tried to follow, but they kept getting in each other's way. "Now for duck, duck, goose," Dong-Yun ordered. The 12 human ships arranged themselves in a loose circle around the weapons platform. The Reapers moved to intercept, but the humans started their playground game. One ship would break from the circle and fly around the outside of the Reaper formation. When it got close to the platform, another ship would chase it. But instead of fighting, both ships would dive into the enemy formation using routes that followed children's games. The Reapers could not understand what they were seeing. Ships that should fight each other were working together. Attack patterns that made no logical sense were actually working. "Boarding teams, you're up," Dong-Yun called. Nari led the assault on the weapons platform. Instead of using military breach tactics, she treated the huge structure like the playground equipment she had climbed as a child. "There," she pointed to a maintenance port. "Too small for military entry. Perfect for hide and seek." Her team squeezed through spaces that military doctrine said were impossible to use. They climbed through areas that proper tactics said were too dangerous. They followed routes that only made sense if you remembered being a kid exploring places adults said you could not go. Inside the platform, they found the control center, but it was guarded by Reaper defense systems that could predict any military approach. "King of the Hill," Nari whispered to her team. It was a simple game. Whoever held the high ground won. But children playing King of the Hill never followed rules. They found clever ways to reach the top. They worked together to pull down whoever was already there. Nari's team attacked the control center from 6 directions at once. They came through air vents, maintenance shafts, and emergency exits. They moved like children playing on jungle gyms, not like trained soldiers. The Reaper defenses could not adapt fast enough. Their programming had no response for tactics that followed playground logic instead of military training. Platform secured, Nari reported. Beginning shutdown sequence. Outside, the Reaper fleet was falling apart. Their ships kept trying to predict human movements, but every prediction was wrong. Humans did not follow the patterns that military computers understood. Captain Donghyun watched as the ancient weapons platform went dark. 200 Reaper ships suddenly found themselves without their command center. Their perfect coordination broke down. All ships, he ordered, time for a game of tag. You're it. The human fleet scattered in all directions. The confused Reapers tried to follow, but they could not decide which ship to chase first. They got in each other's way. They fired on empty space where they thought ships would be. Within an hour, the Reaper fleet was scattered across the system. Some ships fled into deep space. Others powered down, their systems overloaded from trying to process human playground logic. Mission accomplished, Donghyun reported to Earth Command. Weapons platform destroyed. Enemy fleet scattered. How? Came the reply from headquarters. Donghyun looked around his bridge. His crew was tired but smiling. They had just won an impossible battle using children's games. We played by our rules instead of theirs, he said simply. Later, as the human fleet regrouped, Somin approached her captain. Sir, do you think the galaxy will understand what happened here? Donghyun thought about it. Alien species that trained for hundreds of years before fighting. Species that followed ancient traditions and logical patterns. They would have trouble believing that playground games could defeat advanced war machines. They'll learn, he said. The question is whether they'll learn fast enough. In the distance, more Reaper signals were being detected. The ancient machines were waking up across the galaxy. Soon other species would face the same impossible odds. But humans had proven something important. Sometimes the best way to win was not to play the enemy's game. Sometimes you had to make them play yours. And humans had been learning their game since they were old enough to walk. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime had never been so crowded. Representatives from every known species filled the massive chamber. The air buzzed with 100 different languages and the sound of confused aliens trying to understand what had happened. Admiral Wonshik walked through the center of it all. Behind him came the heroes of the Reaper battle. Captain Minho, who had first met the galactic powers months ago. Commander Somin, who had led the fighter attack. Colonel Jiwan, who specialized in training and tactics. The humans wore simple uniforms. No fancy decorations. No glowing crystals or energy fields like the aliens around them. They looked ordinary. That was exactly the problem. Elder Keth of the Valari stood at the center podium. His crystal body pulsed with confused colors. Admiral Wonshik of Earth, you will explain. The chamber became quiet. Thousands of eyes, sensors, and energy fields focused on the small group of humans. Explain what? Admiral Wonshik asked calmly. How? Drone Commander Zixtal stepped forward. His shell had been repaired since the Reaper attack, but new scars showed through the patches. How did 12 human vessels defeat 200 Void Reapers? How did you accomplish what our greatest fleets could not? Added a luminous representative, its energy form flickering with agitation. Admiral Wonshik looked at his officers. They nodded. They had prepared for this moment. You asked us a question months ago, the Admiral began. You wanted to know why humans start training our children so early. You thought it was about making warriors. Images appeared in the air above the chamber. The same pictures that had been shown before. Human children playing in schoolyards. Kids climbing on metal bars. Teenagers doing martial arts. You were wrong, Admiral Wonshik said simply. Wrong? Elder Keth's voice rang like broken bells. Your young ones clearly practice combat techniques. No. Colonel Jiwan stepped forward. They play games. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens arguing in dozens of languages. The sound was overwhelming until Elder Keth called for silence. Games do not defeat Void Reapers, he declared. These games do, Commander Somin said. She moved to stand beside her commanding officers. Would you like us to show you? A section of the floor opened up. A holographic projection system rose from below. Admiral Wanshik nodded to his team. Computer, begin demonstration program Alpha. The air filled with moving images. Human children playing on Earth. But now the display showed details that the aliens had missed before. This is called Red Rover, Soman explained. Children form two lines holding hands. One child runs at the line trying to break through. The aliens watched as kids on a playground played the simple game. They saw children running, laughing, falling down, getting up again. Tactical analysis, Commander Soman continued. Red Rover teaches rapid assessment of weak points in enemy formations. It teaches how to break through defensive lines using speed and surprise. The image changed. Now it showed Samin's fighter squadron breaking through the Reaper fleet using the same pattern. Impossible, Zixtal buzzed. Children's entertainment cannot teach real military tactics. Computer, show duck duck goose, Colonel Jiwan called. More images appeared. Children sitting in a circle. One child walking around the outside, tapping heads. When they said goose, chaos erupted as children chased each other. This teaches unpredictable movement patterns, Jiwan explained. Random selection of targets. Quick direction changes. Escape and evasion under pressure. The display split to show Captain Dongyan's fleet using the same tactics against the Reapers. A new alien stepped forward. It looked like a walking tree with silver bark. I am Grove Speaker Salari of the Silvani. Our analysis suggests these patterns would be easily predicted by advanced computers. Would they? Admiral Wanshik asked. Computer, run prediction simulation. The holographic display changed again. Now it showed an alien computer trying to predict the outcome of simple human games. Numbers flashed. Graphs appeared and disappeared. Error messages blinked red. The simulation cannot complete, a mechanical voice announced. Human play patterns contain too many variables for accurate prediction. But why? Elder Keth demanded. Games have rules. Rules create patterns. Patterns can be analyzed. Commander Soman smiled. Computer, show game variations. The display filled with dozens of versions of the same games. Red Rover played with different rules in different places. Duck, duck, goose with extra steps added by creative children. Tag with boundaries that changed based on where kids were playing. Human children do not just follow rules, Soman explained. They change rules. They make new rules. They argue about rules and then make up completely different games. Every human child learns to be creative within structure, Colonel Jiwan added. They learn to find solutions that adults never think of. They learn that the best answer is sometimes the one that makes no logical sense. The alien stared at the displays. Grove Speaker Salari's silver leaves rustled with confusion. This is chaotic. This is childhood, Admiral Wanshik said. And childhood is where humans learn to think. Computer, tactical demonstration, Captain Minho called. The holographic display cleared. A three-dimensional battlefield appeared showing the recent fight against the Reapers. Standard military doctrine, Minho explained, says that 12 ships cannot defeat 200. The computer calculations are simple. We should have lost in minutes. Red markers appeared where human ships should have been destroyed. Timestamps showed when defeat should have occurred. But we did not follow standard doctrine, Minho continued. We followed playground logic. The display rewound. Now it showed what actually happened. Human ships moving in patterns that made no military sense. Fighters attacking in ways that violated every rule of space combat. The Reaper computers tried to predict our moves, Commander Soman said, but they had no data on human playground behavior. Their programming could not process actions that followed children's game rules instead of military training. Elder Keth moved closer to the display. His crystal body had turned pale blue. You used randomness? We used creativity, Admiral Wanshik corrected. Structured creativity, the kind that human children learn before they can read. Show them the jungle gym assault, Colonel Jiwan suggested. The display focused on the weapons platform. It showed Engineer Nari's team entering through impossible routes. Maintenance shafts. Emergency exits. Spaces too small for normal military operations. Human children learn to navigate complex three-dimensional environments from a very young age, Jiwan explained. Playgrounds teach them to think in directions that military architects never consider. Over, under, around, and through, Admiral Wanshik said. Every human child knows these concepts before age 5. The aliens watched as the human boarding team moved through the platform, like children playing on jungle gyms. They saw impossible entries through spaces that should have been too small. Routes that connected in ways that made no logical sense. The platform's defensive systems, Admiral Wanchik continued, were designed to stop military assault teams. They were not programmed to stop children playing hide-and-seek. The chamber was quiet for a long time. Aliens looked at each other with confusion. Some spoke in whispers. Others stood perfectly still, processing what they had learned. Finally, Elder Keth spoke. "You are saying that human military superiority comes from play?" "We are saying that human military superiority comes from learning to think creatively from a very young age," Admiral Wanchik replied. "Play is how we learn. Joy is how we grow. Games are how we discover that impossible problems sometimes have simple solutions. And simple problems sometimes have impossible solutions," Commander Soman added with a grin. Grove Speaker Salari rustled his leaves. "This changes everything we know about military training." "This changes everything we know about education," corrected a luminous representative. Admiral Wanchik looked around the chamber. He saw fear in some alien faces, wonder in others. A few looked like they were beginning to understand. "The Void Reapers are still out there," he said quietly. "More of them are waking up. They will attack again." "What do you suggest?" Elder Keth asked. Admiral Wanchik smiled. It was the same smile Captain Minho had worn months ago when he first walked into this chamber. "We suggest you send some of your young ones to Earth," he said. "Let them learn to play." 6 months after the Reaper War, Earth looked different. Ships from across the galaxy filled the skies over major cities. Not warships this time, but transport vessels carrying the most precious cargo in the universe. Children. Captain Minho stood on the observation deck of the Terran Strategic Academy. Below him, the strangest playground in galactic history spread across several kilometers. Young Valari crystal beings climbed on metal structures designed for their unique forms. Thrax larvae practiced coordination exercises that looked exactly like human children playing with building blocks. Luminous energy children flickered and pulsed as they learned to play tag. "It is remarkable," said Elder Keth, who stood beside Minho. The Valari leader had changed much in recent months. His crystal body now showed soft gold colors instead of the sharp blues of before. "Our young ones exhibit joy. We had no word for this emotion until we came here." Lieutenant Yuna approached them, carrying a datapad filled with reports. She had been promoted to Academy Coordinator after proving her talent for understanding alien learning patterns. "The morning assessments are complete," she reported. "All species are showing improvement in creative problem solving. The Thrax younglings have increased their adaptability scores by 40%. "And the Sylvani?" Elder Keth asked. "Grove Speaker Salari's offspring are learning to think outside their root networks," Yuna replied with a smile. "Yesterday, young tree dancer Melori suggested a solution to a logistics problem that our best engineers had been working on for weeks." Through the observation window, they could see exactly what she meant. A small Sylvani child looking like a miniature walking tree was playing with human children. They were building something with blocks and rope. It looked chaotic, but Minho could see the underlying structure. The alien child was learning to think in ways his species had never imagined. "Captain Minho," a new voice called. They turned to see Admiral Wanchik approaching with several alien dignitaries. Among them was Drone Commander Zixtal, now serving as the Thrax liaison to the Academy. "Admiral." Minho nodded respectfully. "We have received interesting news," Admiral Wanchik said. His expression was serious. "Long-range sensors have detected another Void Reaper activation. This time they are heading for the Centauri Trade Hub." Zixtal clicked his mandibles nervously. "Centauri Hub serves 15 different species. Millions of beings live there. What is our response?" Elder Keth asked. Admiral Wanchik smiled. It was not the confident smile of months past. This was something new, something that included everyone present. "Our response," he said, "is already launching." Through the windows they could see ships rising from Earth's surface, but these were not purely human vessels. Mixed crews worked together on bridges designed for multiple species. Thrax tactical officers served alongside human pilots. Valari engineers worked with luminous energy specialists. "Fleet composition?" Minho asked. 47 ships from 12 different species, Admiral Wanchik replied. All crews trained in human tactical flexibility and alien wisdom combined. Yuna pulled up displays on her datapad. The crews have been practicing integrated playground tactics for months. Human children's games adapted for alien physiology and thinking patterns. For example, Elder Keth was genuinely curious now. Valari crystal tag, Una explained, based on human tag but modified for beings who communicate through light patterns. It teaches rapid formation changes and silent coordination. Thrax hide and seek, added Zixtal with what might have been pride, hide and seek for species with natural camouflage abilities. It develops individual initiative within group coordination. Admiral Wanshik gestured toward the launching fleet. But the real breakthrough is not just in tactics. It is in thinking. Explain, Elder Keth requested. Human children learn to combine structure with creativity, the Admiral said. But alien children bring different perspectives to the same problems. Valari young ones think in light patterns. Thrax larvae naturally coordinate as groups. Sylvani offspring see connections across vast timescales. When you combine human creativity with alien wisdom, Minho added, you get solutions that no single species could imagine. A communication alert sounded. Lieutenant Una answered it and listened for a moment. The fleet has reached the Centauri system, she reported. They are engaging the Reapers now. Admiral Wanshik activated a large display screen. Images appeared showing the battle in real time. What they saw was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The mixed galactic fleet moved like no military force in history. Human ships provided chaotic creativity. Valari vessels used crystalline formations that shifted like living things. Thrax squadrons coordinated in patterns that seemed random, but were perfectly organized. Luminous energy ships flowed through space like visible music. They are playing symphony tag, Una whispered in amazement. It was a game invented by human and alien children working together. Multiple teams, each with different abilities working toward a common goal using completely different methods. It looked like chaos, but every movement was part of a larger pattern. The Void Reapers tried to adapt. Their computers analyzed the attack patterns, searching for predictable behaviors to counter. But they found none. Every time they thought they understood one species' tactics, another species would act in a completely different way. The Reapers cannot predict actions that combine multiple forms of logic, Elder Keth observed. Human playground creativity plus Thrax group coordination plus Valari light thinking plus luminous energy flow patterns, plus a dozen other ways of thinking they have never encountered. Admiral Wanshik finished. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the Void Reaper fleet was scattered again. But this time, several Reaper ships had been captured intact. Scientists would study their technology. Engineers would learn how they worked. Most importantly, the ancient machines had learned something new. The galaxy was no longer a collection of separate species following predictable patterns. It was becoming something unified but diverse, something that thought in ways the Reapers could never predict because the galaxy itself was learning to play. Fleet returning to base, Una reported. No casualties. Mission accomplished. Admiral Wanshik turned to the alien leaders present. The Academy will continue to operate as long as you wish to send your children here. But I think the real learning is just beginning. What do you mean? Zixtal asked. Your children are teaching our children things we never knew, the Admiral explained. Human creativity is powerful, but alien wisdom makes it stronger. Together, we are all learning to think in new ways. Elder Keth moved to the window overlooking the playground. Below, hundreds of children from dozens of species played together. They laughed in different frequencies. They moved in patterns that reflected their unique biologies. But they were learning the same lessons. How to solve problems creatively, how to work together despite differences, and how to find joy in the process of discovery. The Void Reapers represent the old way, Elder Keth said quietly. Ancient logic, predictable patterns, isolation and destruction. And the children represent the new way, Minho replied. Creative thinking. Unpredictable solutions, cooperation and growth, a new alarm sounded. But this was not a battle alert. It was an exploration signal. Long-range sensors had detected something at the edge of known space. What is it? Admiral Wanshik asked. Una checked her communications. Unknown contacts approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Large fleet, bigger than anything we have ever seen. Invasion force? Zixtal buzzed with concern. No, sir. Una smiled as she read the message. First contact. A new species requesting permission to enter galactic space. They say they have been watching our recent battles and want to learn about human playground tactics. Admiral Wanshik laughed. It was a sound of pure joy. Send them coordinates for Earth. Tell them to bring their children. Outside the window, the mixed fleet returned home. Ships from dozens of species flew in formations that had never existed before. Formations based on games played by children, who had learned that the best way to solve impossible problems was to think like the problem had never been impossible at all. Elder Keth watched a group of Valari younglings teaching human children how to communicate with light patterns. Nearby, Thrax larvae were learning to play individual roles in team games. Sylvani saplings practiced quick decision-making instead of slow root consensus. The galaxy is growing up, he observed. The galaxy is learning to play, Admiral Wanshik corrected gently, and that makes all the difference. Above them, stars filled the endless sky. Somewhere among them, ancient machines still slept, waiting to wake and destroy. But the galaxy was ready now, not with bigger weapons or stronger shields, but with something the machines could never understand. The galaxy had learned the secret that human children knew from birth. The best way to face the impossible was together, with creativity and joy, making up new rules as you went along. And the best time to start learning that lesson was as early as possible.